Hey, Leo. Maybe expand a little bit on Alex. Like it doesn't feel like that long ago he was playing for Belleville against Michaels and Donnybrook. But you put him on a senior cup early. Sorry, yes, you put him on a senior contract earlier than some of his peers. He's got a couple of opportunities, but not a lot. But he's obviously a player. He's been on an emerging Ireland tour. He's obviously a player that you rate very highly. Can you tell us maybe a bit about him, because a lot of us wouldn't have come across him yet?
Um, yeah, listen, Alex, what he did in 2 years, like a 20s, because he obviously left school as a under 19. So, um, and yeah, listen, like he's like physically, he's very strong profile, very dynamic, and he's towards the middle of last season, he's sort of featuring up here. It was great experience, as you touched on, to go on that emerging Ireland tour. Um, Picked up an injury then, and obviously he got back for the 20s World Cup, and it's always tricky for some of those guys to manage. Then you're into pre-season, so they're you're trying to always strike the right balance between a player finishing their 20s World Cup campaign, because it can be full on, even though he missed some earlier part of that season. So again, like, where do you get development? And so obviously we have a different group for pre-season than the 20s guys. Some of them will come back in later on. So then he was trying to play a little bit of catch up to try and get into that group, if you understand me. So the 20s, listen, they had a bit of a disappointing campaign, and so. But as the season has gone on, he's featured more and more with the group, and he's really kicking on now off the back of playing in some games, which is great to see. So it's always trying to strike the balance, if you understand me. With there's the physical, and there's also the game understanding, the mental awareness, sharpness of that development part for a young player, and it just there's no exact timeline, is there, for any of these things? And again, as a front five player as well, you need to be able to play. You're physically strong enough to obviously play in the front row. So, but he is that. Like, he's incredibly strong and powerful. So, but yeah, listen, he's been on the radar for a long time. They're coming through Belvedere. People have been talking about him for a long time. And yeah, listen, it's great to see him come through, because listen, he's still an incredibly young man. So, and then Jerry is listen, you've touched on, obviously you've all seen Jerry's story. Listen, it's brilliant. So for the two of them, it's great. But listen, we try to plan and make sure we get these guys integrated all the time. And if the need rises, like Andrew Border goes down, so are we ready for what's next? Thankfully, these guys are ready, because they've done a ton of work. So hopefully you see that now tomorrow.
Well, just in terms of his mentality, his kind of, I know you need him tomorrow, but like, what gives you faith in sending him out there in a European quarterfinal? Because there's not many 20-year-old props starting. I know the guys he's up against aren't that much older, but a Puck for Jura's 6 England caps, so there's a bit of experience there.
Well, we see that in training. That's the thing. So yeah, listen, what we see in training, listen, he's scrummaged against Tig or Tom Clarkson or Rabbi Slavani. So, and like, Rabbi is brilliant with those young props. I know it was announced yesterday Rabbi going to Toulon, but like, he's had an amazing impact. Because obviously everyone in the supporters, everybody sees what happens on the pitch, but they don't see what happens on a training ground, the small conversations. So, over the course of this season, listen, I would imagine, I don't want to blow too much smoke up Rabbit, but like, it's hard to, explain like how important that can be. It's the instant feedback. So this was Scrum, and like, Rabbit's, like, he's so giving of his knowledge, his wisdom to an Alex Uslanov. So if you're a 20-year-old scrummage against a guy that's 60 cap French international, think of all the loose heads that Rabbi has come up against in his time, either international rugby or the top 14. And because Rabbi's obviously here all season, listen, the international players, as we know, are come in and go at different stages. So, and because they're semi-competing against each other as well. So it's more of a guarded, whereas you have a guy coming in here with a very clear in terms of what his actual remit is. So I think they all have to, they've all played a part in, helping Oos get to where he is as quickly as he has. So, but also the work that Robin does with the front rowers as well. So listen, there's nobody better around, in my opinion. Like, listen, he does an amazing job with the front rowers. So, and even Aaron Dunham, before they get in the building here, the work that they do, then the COE, is a real point of difference for us. We would like to think, because we invest heavily in terms of front row development because it's so bloody important.
Just last one for me. What kind of performance do you want to see after kind of good signs the last couple of weeks, but also that carelessness that you talked about after last week that you want to stamp out? What are the standards you want to see from the team this week?
If we could throw less intercepts and score 49 points again, we'd be pretty happy with that. But it's a totally different challenge. It's a new game, so just have to adapt to the game. We'd love to go out the first 20 minutes and, like we did last week, score 2 tries in the first 12 minutes. I'd prefer not to concede 4 in the next 28 minutes. But if you went out with that mentality at the start of a game and start well and try and build a score, whatever way that looks like, and then just kick on from there, like that's what we would love to see. But listen, Sale they're a proper team now, so really physical edge. When we played against them last time, I'm looking at the clock, 35 minutes in, we're 13-6 down under the pump. We managed to score some tries either side of halftime and take the game away, but they were in the game all the way to the end and score a couple of late tries themselves. So, and that's where they were missing players. They had a rotated team that day as well, if you remember. So yeah, we just need to be prepared for whatever the game unfolds. Listen, they're a top team in England. They've been in big games. They know what they're doing. They have a strong coaching group. Listen, well resourced and all the rest. Like they're a serious outfit. So we need to make sure that we're just on our stuff and both sides of the ball delivering well. And yeah, showing what we can do is the big thing. Show what we can do.
The role of the home crowd. You've got a home tie. 6-day notice set in the quarterfinal in Easter holidays is a tricky one. But thinking back to last week, and the crowd were very engaged and the role that they can play.
That's huge. I think it was maybe perfect world. You're in the RDS and you have a full house, like, and it's slightly different. But anyway, we were very appreciative of where we are because we're going to Aviva. It's a quality stadium, and anyway, let's just put in a big performance and let's give the crowd something to cheer about is probably the big thing from our point of view. So as you touched on, it was great to have them so involved last week in the game. Listen, we're just hoping for a big day again for everyone involved in Leinster Rugby.
Any idea what the crowd might be? How many tickets have been sold? Are you aiming for the same as last week or a little less?
It sounds similar from what I gather. Yep.
Okay.
Similar to whatever.
All right. You're seeking to earn a 6th semi-final in a row, which is an achievement in itself. But I don't think you get much credit for this, or maybe you don't even give yourselves any credit for this. You're ready to do it.
Listen, we want to go as far as we can possibly go in anything that we do. So, and that's the thing. We try and have consistency in our preparation and keep going after games. So this week is no different. So.
Just the one from me. I was going to ask you about the loose head situation there as well. Listen, you're lucky you're not playing in Belfast or Cork or Limerick this week with the fuel crisis going on. But just touching on what Jerry was talking about, it might affect the crowd or whatever. But look, you guys are all ensconced in South Dublin. You're very lucky with that. But are you meeting half an hour early or 45 minutes early, or is there any contingency plans you need to work into today, given everything's going on around the country?
It's something that we are monitoring. Yes. We have one staff member took him 3 hours to get in today, so that's one that I'm aware of. So, but yes, if you're in doubt, I would leave a little bit earlier, for sure. But it's like all these things, like you have to be ready for every different scenario that can play out. Absolutely, we're monitoring the situation.
Just quickly, Leo, what does the rejig in the backline mean? It means you've got a very experienced second centre who maybe calm things down if there's a little bit of getting out of control. But just very quickly, if we just run into what it means, Jimmy, for Gary.
Listen, we was moving Rico onto the wing. You saw what that looked like in the last 20 minutes when Robbie came on. And Robbie's still on the bench. Gary comes back in, so Robbie will play a big role, I think, again this week. Jamie, Jamie obviously featured very, very strongly for Ireland at 15 during the Six Nations. So, but with Hugo back in the mix, competition is very, very strong there, isn't it? So there's some serious talent there, and hopefully across the game you get to see some of that. So Gary was a bit unlucky; just the game came a little bit too soon for him last week. But listen, he's back in this week and brings all his experience both sides of the ball. So hopefully he'll hit the ground running there this week. He looked very sharp for the game against Scarlets, where he would have started that game with Jamie. So I thought those guys looked good in the Scarlets game a few weeks ago. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's grand. Yeah.